Today, I wanted to talk about the recent progress in the case of missing Kristin Smart. Kristin was last seen returning to the Cal Poly campus after attending a party in May of 1996. When she wasn't seen the following morning, her friends reported her missing. Although her body has yet to be found, she was pronounced dead in 2002. Okay, so getting to recent events, the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Office announced on Wednesday that new warrants include search for evidence for specific items at 4 separate locations. While officers did not list the exact location of these warrants, we can take a closer look to kind of get a better idea. 2 of these locations are in San Luis Obispo County. One location is in Los Angeles County, and one location is in Washington State. On Wednesday morning, sheriff's deputies and FBI investigators were seen at the Arroyo Grande home of Susan Flores, who is the mother of the only person of interest in this case, Paul Flores. On Wednesday afternoon, members of media and news crews were outside of the home when Susan Flores pulled into her driveway. Investigators were seen putting up tape around the home on East Branch Street. When she was approached, Susan declined to give any comment to reporters or media. And, I can't say I'm all that shocked to hear that. For all this attention to be surrounding the case after all these years, I'm sure she's pretty nervous, to say the least. Okay, so moving on, a neighbor in Arroyo Grande said to the media that the home of Ruben Flores, who is the father of Paul Flores, was also searched Wednesday morning. It should be mentioned here that at the time of Kristin's disappearance, Paul and his father were considered to be very close, and that Ruben's wife, Susan, was reported to have made a statement before knowing anything about Kristin's disappearance. She stated kind of off the cuff to a coworker that something must have happened the night before, because right after her husband gets a phone call in the middle of the night, he left like a bat out of hell. I just thought that was kind of interesting. All right, so back to the search warrants. The King County Sheriff's Office confirmed that it assisted the San Luis Obispo County Office in the service of a search warrant at a home in Kenmore, Washington. Paul's sister reportedly lives there. I've heard some reports, and I can't say for certain, but I think these warrants may be for electronic devices, like used for communication, like a phone or a computer. In Southern California, investigators served a search warrant at Paul Flores' home in San Pedro in Los Angeles County. So Flores was home at the time, and media was present to see him being questioned. You can see he's wearing a blue hoodie and I think looking pretty unnerved. He was detained during the search, but he was not arrested. Paul was the last known person to see Kristin Smart. He told authorities that she was extremely drunk when he left her after helping her back to campus after a party, but he has refused to answer any questions beyond that, choosing to invoke his Fifth Amendment right. Last week, the Sheriff's Office announced that they have 2 vehicles related to this investigation in evidence. 2 trucks, which officials say belong to family members of Paul Flores in 1996, have been talked about quite a bit lately after the Your Own Backyard podcast was released. This podcast chronicles the disappearance of Kristin and the investigation that followed. The sheriff's office has also detailed the work that has been done on this case since it was made a priority for the department back in 2011, and this includes the service of 18 search warrants, conducting physical evidence searches at 9 separate locations, a complete re-examination of every item of physical evidence seized by all agencies involved in the case, submission of 37 evidence items from the early days of this case for modern DNA testing, recovery of 140 new items of evidence, conducting 91 person-to-person interviews, and the writing of 364 supplemental reports. So the search warrants are sealed by the courts, and as a result, public information officers have stated that they are precluded by law from disclosing any further details about them. So next we get to the press release, and honestly, it doesn't provide us with very much at all. We'll go ahead and take a look at what was shared. They explain that due to the high profile nature of this case and also to avoid misinformation, they want everyone to know that they did serve the search warrants and seize evidence at 4 separate locations. They go on to say that the search warrants are limited in scope and sealed by the court. As a result, they will not be releasing further detail about them. They remind us that this is an active and ongoing investigation and that the sheriff's office will not be commenting any further, and no additional information will be released at this time, nor do they anticipate any additional news releases regarding the investigation. So it seems that they are wrapped up pretty tight on this thing, and quite honestly, I think that's a good thing. I know many people can kind of get frustrated when it seems like so much is happening, yet we aren't getting the details as it all unfolds. I just think it's important to remember that that usually only means that law enforcement is doing a good job at building a good, solid case and waiting until the time is right to kind of make their move. After all this, I just have to wonder how the family must feel after all these years to have some movement in the case. And of course, I think about Paul, and if he is guilty, right now, it really just doesn't look good for him. For officials to get aggressive in regards to her disappearance, I imagine that they must have some pretty solid leads. Um, he's probably feeling like that clock is kind of ticking down and probably living in his own personal version of hell right now. I think it's such a wonderful thing what the Your Own podcast has done on this case by shedding light on this and helping law enforcement gather details and make progress after all this time. In my heart, I truly believe that the creator of that podcast is an angel of Kristin's. I think of the night she went missing, and it reminds me of the saying, "What is done in the dark shall come to light," and I'm just very much looking forward to seeing justice be served. So that's it, and thank you guys so much for watching.